for Cegedim, relationship management, and also has one of the coolest little bylines there, being a Google Glass explorer and evangelist. It's my pleasure to welcome to the stage Richie Etwaru.
Am I on?
Is this thing on?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, was there a run this morning? Okay, I was coming in from the bar around 6 o'clock, and I saw some folks going out running. And it wasn't any of you, so I don't So a little bit of introduction, real quick. This is a keynote discussion, and there's tons of technology topics that will be discussed during the day. I would love to get into some technology because it's what I live and breathe, but I may not do that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the challenges of leadership in technology and how we go about that. I work for a company called Cegedim. It's a French company. It's really difficult to pronounce. Cegedim, and that's all I'm going to say about it. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, just tell me afterwards. A little bit about myself. I grew up in the insurance business of Prudential Securities, and what I learned to do there was I learned how to build software. Started in 1996, and I don't really remember when I left, but around 2001, I started my first company called License Rigor, and I learned how to build businesses and industries, and then I sold that and I retired for a year. Then I got bored and I picked up a drug habit, and then I realized I need to go back to work. A little bit after that, let's make sure this clicker works. Well, it works if I do this. A little bit after that, I went to Lehman Brothers, and I learned how to build platforms using technology. I ended up at UBS, where I learned how to build influence, and now I'm at Cegedim, where I'm doing a lot of industry transformation work. Now, the reason why I take you through this is to give you a little bit of background on to where my remarks today are going to come from. Not because I'm looking for a job and I want you to give me one. Guys, you got to help me with the clicker. So I do tons of other stuff. Some folks from last year saw me and they're like, "What are you doing? I heard you're doing 18 million things these days." So I wanted to go through a few of those just so you understand where my perspective is from. I founded a company called the Human API. I'm editor-in-chief for Breakthrough Television and Magazine. I do some innovation stuff off of Whitespace, board of directors on .ain. I'm halfway through my book called Awesome Sauce. I'm halfway through my PhD, and I teach at the university sometimes. I'm with Cegedim, and then when I get a chance to do something that is fun, I write on Huffington Post. Today's remarks are going to be anchored in some of the macro changes that I'm seeing as I work with CIOs and CTOs and how they run their business and how they help their organizations. Just give me a second, let me make sure I can actually click through this, or I would end up standing behind here all the time, and this is going to be insanely boring for everyone. There's a dance that I do 30 minutes in. Yeah, no. It's not the Macarena, don't worry. So this one's the one we're using. Let's see. Yep, it works now. Can we get my feedback, please? Okay, so I want to talk to you about the IGE. No, I'm kidding. Just ended up working out that way. So when I look at what were the challenges, I was divisional CIO at UBS. What were the challenges that I was faced with? Why is it that every time I tried to get something sold to the operating committee, I barely got $500,000 to do a pilot, and then afterwards, I spent the first $100,000, they took the $400,000 back away from me. Right? I just never get it off the ground. And the reason is because I wasn't paying attention to some of the changes that was going on outside of technology. What were the forces that were changing business fundamentally outside of technology? And I pull a few here to frame today's discussion because I'm going to tell you that everything that we know about leadership and management is completely bullshit. It's a waste of time and it's common sense, and we need to go in a completely different direction. So today's keynote is going to be about counterintuition, and I'm hoping that you guys can use it to lead better in technology. So patent wars. In 2012 was the first time both Google and Apple spent more on lawsuits over patents than R&D. That's kind of insane, but what it's telling you is that people are grabbing patents in sort of like this land grab situation, right? People are not necessarily innovating. What they're doing is they're buying innovation. And that was a fundamental change in thinking for me because I started to realize what I needed to do was not to come up with the right ideas, but to build a small VC inside of the firm so we can go out and bring other firms that had innovation and spin them out. Startups are putting a lot of pressure on our ability to keep our market share. This one is really bizarre. Company announced that they're starting up in 2012. You guys probably can't see that text because it's too small. 2 days after, they get bought for $176 million. 2 days after. Now, I can tell you that that's pretty good. I still believe that 3 decades from today, we're all going to laugh at the guys from Snapchat, right? $3.2 billion and you don't take it for Snapchat. Like in business schools, 3 decades in the future, people are still going to tell about like the biggest blunder in entrepreneurship ever, right? My kids are going to learn about that in business school and be like, there was this guy who was offered $3.2 million. Wealth is moving. There's some stuff about Asia. And the one that really starts to strike me is while CIO tenure used to get shorter, CIO tenure is actually getting longer. And Anne Michelle and I were talking about this, I got your name right last night. But CEO tenure is getting shorter. Average CEO tenure in the United States went from 9 years to 5 years in the last decade. What does that mean? It means that while I'm trying to be strategic, that guy is under more pressure than I have ever seen. Because his is shrinking faster than mine. And so those are some of the things that makes me create the types of remarks. So the question is, so what? Right? So what is this new deal that Richie likes to operate in organizations with? Well, I'll tell you, the pace is changing, the direction is changing, and the what is changing. And the what is really important. We're going to talk today about big data, social mobility. There's tons of great sessions. We're going to talk about the Internet of Things, the industrial internet, artificial intelligence, all that type of stuff. But the way we go about dealing with change has changed. Change itself is changing. When I asked my dad how he dealt with change when he was running organizations, he was like, oh, you know, we read leadership books, we read management books, we build consensus. That crap doesn't work today. It just doesn't. The scholarly knowledge and the science that you need to be a technology leader has completely changed. The practitioner knowledge has completely changed. And the frameworks that we use have completely changed. Now, you would think that, you know, yeah, this sounds good, and we all see it, and we feel it, but is it actually real? Do we really have to lead technology differently? This is a guy named Ray Wang. So, yeah, how many companies were created and went out of business in the last 2 years that made it more than $100 million within the 2 years, globally? 400 or 500. They pop up and disappear. The thing that I like that Ray said, 52% of Fortune 500 companies have either been bought, merged, or went out of business in the last 10 years. 52% of the Fortune 500 went out of business or bought or merged in the last 10 years. That's insane, insane disruption. So let's go to the books. Well, what is there? I say it's mostly noise. I've probably read every single book someone has recommended for me to read. I still read Animal Farm once every 2 years. I don't know why. It's something about Animal Farm. And I got a stack of Archie comics that I read through as well, every once in a while. There are over 890,000 books on management on Amazon.com. 110,000 on leadership, which I actually thought there would be more on leadership and less on management, but go figure. 64,000 on innovation, 37,000 on transformation, 1,800 on disruption. All right, you're laughing. Is this number low or high?
I think it's amazing.
64,000 innovation experts that got publishers to agree that they are knowing enough about innovation to write a goddamn book. There are more books published about disruption and available to be bought on Amazon than Hinduism. Bizarre. It's all noise. We have about 1 million publications of common sense between management and leadership. Now, in the innovation, transformation, and disruption space, this is sort of like the new science, right? There's some value there, But most of it is going through the same trajectory as management and leadership went through, which is, let me just tell you the same common sense that we learned from everybody else in a different way. I want to share with you guys today some of the competencies that I believe will help you through innovation, transformation, and disruption. So these three are innovation, disruption, transformation. A lot of people think of innovation as sort of a personal thing. A lot of people think of disruption as a company thing. A lot of people think of transformation as an industry thing. I've done this speech before where people say, well, transformation is really company, disruption is industry. You know, apples, what was it? Potatoes, whatever it is. You know, like, bottom line is, we tend to think of this as a CIO, CTO job. We tend to think of this as a CFO, COO job. And we tend to think of this as a CMO, CEO job. Can you guys see at least the red text? In the back? Okay, all right. It's not projecting HD, so it's not coming out right. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you everyone needs to care about these. And here are things that you really need to start thinking about when I say care about them. You cannot go about innovation, transformation, and disruption in herd mentality. As a matter of fact, if you see more than 5 people doing one thing, go in the complete opposite direction. Counterintuition is the only way to win. Now we're seeing counterintuition get really popular in the non-specific technology space, and it's being led by this chap. You guys recognize who this is, I presume? Malcolm Gladwell is one of the best counterintuitive thinkers in the world. Just did an amazing $2 million worth of book about David and Goliath. I mean, if I had this guy's job, believe me, I wouldn't be here. It's amazing, but he's really making the point that a lot of the things that we know or we thought we know are different, and you can go about it in a very, very, very different way with counterintuition. I have designed a leadership model that is built around innovation, transformation, and disruption, and runs on a platform of counterintuition. Everything that I share with you here today, I've actually personally interviewed for over an hour over 50 CIOs, CTOs, CMOs, or CEOs, over the phone or in person, that has more than $100 million of P&L responsibility for them to vet this leadership model. So this is not just one guy telling you how it works. This is tons of people saying, you know what? If I had to sit down and write the things that work for me, yeah, this kind of explains how we navigate it. So I'll go through each one of these in detail, but in the innovation space, there's not one way to do innovation, there's tons of ways. I'll give you a framework. In the innovation space, again, there's no such thing as black ops. A lot of people start innovation and they start in this like little, let's do a little project and nobody needs to hear about it until it gets better. And I'll tell you about why you do completely opposite of that. In the innovation space, fear of failure, like, oh, fail fast, fail early. I'm going to tell you how to encourage failure. In the disruption space, a lot of people think about, well, let's get a viable version out first, okay? And then let's show it to the customers. The pace at which this thing is moving, don't even build, just go to the customers right away. I'll give you some examples of that. In the disruption, project police. I'll share some of my experiences with UBS and how I dealt with the project police. These are the PMO people. I've gotten into blood fights in the hallways with PMO people. We'll talk a little bit about phases. You know, I couldn't understand why is it that we had phases in our projects. It was like, let's set a logical point in the project where we can kill it. It's the end of phase 1. I couldn't understand that. And everybody would go into it just, you know, you always have the one smart guy in the room that's like, well, why don't we just like, do it into phases? You know, and he makes a promotion out of that. Right? I'm like, what you just did, you created a logical point to kill the project. We're going to talk about transformation. Target states. Every company that I consult with, they're trying to figure out a target state. I'll tell you why that's the wrong way to go. Because what you're doing is you're locking people's mind into one state of the organization, and why that's bad. Everyone wants to build the next product that's a hero, and everybody's waiting. They're waiting to see who else is doing it first. So I will take the next 20 minutes to go through these 9 things with you and talk to you about it. Then again, I have a $20 prize, which I'll take from someone else to give to someone else. So actually, why is it that I call it the Hydra leadership model? Most people probably know that answer already. So innovation, let's talk. First thing, and are these coming in? No one size fits all. Now, I really needed to figure out how do I take an investment portfolio of innovation products where 1 in every 25 projects failed. and get people to fund it. Regular IT projects, one in every 25 succeed and get people to fund it. In regular IT projects, 1 in every 4 succeed, right? The other 3 usually either get phased or and piloted. And so I decided that I was going to create this sort of 2x2 matrix to describe to the operating committee how is it that we get it funded.
A, it's not illuminating it, and B, it's
Interesting story about
your video in
Disrupting
mind.
him.
So we started our innovation, and I see a lot of my clients start their innovation and say, let's do this kind of black ops thing, right? So I'm going to give you 2 really smart guys that bother me about innovation every day. We're going to lock them in a room. We'll call them pizza guys. Well, I call them pizza guys. You call them pizza guys because what you do is you lock them in a room, and then you just keep shoving pizza under the door until they come out with something good, right? That is actually the worst way to go about it, because what you want is you want copying of behaviors in your organization, right? So if you read Fernando Herrero, he talks about homo imitans. We're homo sapiens, he calls us homo imitans. He goes back to the psychology of the fact that behavior is copy. Okay? And what you want is for someone to see something and copy. Now, so I started to say, let's just go on air with innovation. Let's tell everybody what we're doing. The first mistake we made, and I made this with 2 companies, was we looked for the really, really big Herculean innovations that we did, and then we put it through the corporate HR, and we had town halls for it. What's your name? Richard climbed the mountain, blah blah blah, and he did it while he was in his cell phone, and that's great. But people don't copy behaviors like that because they're really difficult. They're happy for Richard, but they don't copy it. So we were in an innovation jam, and we had to figure out what to do with QR codes. I was using Jive at the time as the innovation platform. Pulled in a whole bunch of different people. There was a guy at the front desk in the lobby of the building. I shouldn't use the name of the company for this one. There was a guy named Jose. Let's just say the guy's name was Jose. Let's say the guy's name was Raj. Okay? I'm going to go with the brown guy's name. Everybody uses Jose. Right? Right? So there was a guy named Raj in the front, and we invited him in. He ran corporate real estate, and we were trying to figure out what to do with QR codes. All right? So of course, why don't we put it on business cards? Why don't we put it on the back of the reports that we have? Like the regular evolutionary crap that you talk about. Raj had a bunch of guys that work for him that they take the vinyl down from the front of the branches of the company every month. Those big things that hang in the branches, they take them down every month and they put another big piece up. Like that was their whole job. Right, they go branch to branch to branch, take it down, and install another one. Take it down, and install another one. Because we have a new campaign coming out every month, of course, right? So I said, hey guys, why don't you guys just put the QR code on the big thing, and people would just snap it, and they would know what you have this month, and we wouldn't have to. I wouldn't have to pay someone that's unionized to change this thing every month for us. Brilliant idea. We innovated on his idea, and we ended up putting up a 20 by 20 on one of our buildings that was lit in a very big city and got a lot of downloads from research reports from it. Not the greatest innovation in the world, but what was really cool is I made him a rock star. Built an entire corporate communication platform around Raj. And the fact that he was able to do this really, really minimal thing that everybody else felt like, hey, I can be Raj, right? No one can be Richard, he climbs freaking monkeys for heaven's sake, but everybody can be Raj. And so that's why this whole idea of secret projects and innovation just don't work. It's counterintuition. We are predispositioned to think that we got to go black ops. Don't. The whole idea of failure with technology, and I don't need to go through the science of this because there's 64,000 guys that wrote books that told you got to fail fast, fail early, right? Failure to me is something that you have to design for. Failure is something that you have to design for. So when I was getting funding for innovation projects, what I did was I played mini VC with the operator committee. I said, listen, here's what's going to happen. 24 of these are going to fail, but the one that's going to succeed is going to give you 40x return. Now, I don't know which one it is, because the VCs never know which one it is, because if they did, they would go along on that. And so I started to train, not my innovation people and my staff to fail fast and fail early. I had to train my executives that we were going to fail and failure was going to be good. So most of the times when we went in for a quarterly portfolio project, I really was never really communicating which projects we were succeeding on. I was coming in with, all right, guys, we lost 3 this quarter. Well, what happened? Okay, and it was great. It's like, all right, good. So we're 3 idiots away from finding the good one. Right? That was the way we went about feeling. We had to encourage it and design for it. And it was the executives that I needed to really talk through. This whole idea of one size does not fit all. So this worked for me quite well. And if you want to copy it, you can go right ahead. There's no trademark or anything on it. I split it up into evolutionary innovation and revolutionary innovation. And then I say, okay, listen. There's stuff that comes from the inside, from the outside in, and there's stuff that goes from the inside out. So you have this whole idea of here, where it's evolutionary, you're capturing value. Here, where it's revolutionary, you're creating value. Here, where it's coming in from the outside, it's client-delivered ideas. Here, where it's coming from the inside, it's employee-delivered ideas. And so you've got outside-in evolutionary. That's really small ideas that capture a little value that come from clients. What this allowed me to do was it allowed me to categorize the portfolio in such a way that I knew who to get funding for that idea. Because the business guys are going to sponsor that one, right? Evolutionary ideas inside out, revolutionary outside in, completely different funding model. Revolutionary inside out is like the replatforming, it's the innovation that creates innovation, right? So we're going to step on to the next 3 things, but afterwards, if you want to talk a little bit more about this with me, just understand that everything that we are reading or we're being told is actually, to me, in my personal opinion, if I was advising you, it's the wrong way to go about it. You almost got to go in the opposite direction. There's no one size for it. I was asked to come up with an innovation process. Worst thing I ever did. Nothing got funded. Came up with this. Okay. I was told to pick a few really cool people and do some senior projects. Worst thing I ever did. I was told to make sure I fail fast, fail early. Worst thing I ever did. Do you think employees really believe they can fail? No. Let's move on to disruption. So, and I'm going to drill in on the middle one on this one, not on the 2 side ones, just to make sure that we're got enough time. The whole idea of building first in enterprise technology is the complete opposite of what people do in the enterprise. If you go to a coffee shop where kids are building startups, or kids my age are building startups, they are not writing the code and then showing it to you. They're drawing the code and then showing it to you. Still in enterprise technology, we continue to build things and then show it to clients. Now, it's no surprise to me that whenever I was offered $10 to go build a pilot, as soon as I built the pilot for $5 and showed it to the clients, the project got killed. It was absolutely no surprise to me that that happened. Now, this is in hindsight. While it was happening, it was insanely frustrating. In hindsight, I look back and I go, yeah, I actually didn't know what the hell I was building. I was building what I thought the client needed. And now I spend $5 for it, and of course the project gets killed. Thank you. So, go out to the customers early. If you want to name of vendors, of people that does mock-ups for you, I mean, no endorsement, I don't want to stop you, but I'll tell you who they are. You can mock things up completely for $2,000, $3,000 and get it out to our client and get feedback. I'm going to talk in detail on, I think I have like radioactive frequency on my hand or something. I'm breaking all of these things today. The whole idea of these PML type project people when you're doing disruption. And the problem with that. The main distinction here is that I had to understand rigor. Rigor. In the project execution phase, it's high rigor, right? We need dashboards and we need to know what's happening when and where, charts and all that type of stuff. In the ideation phase, it's low rigor, right? You can't have rigor in ideation. Everybody knows that. I created a whole slice in the middle that I call mild rigor. I call it the championing phase. And this was, how do I take the good ideas that we came up with and champion them through the politics to make sure that it turns into real projects with high rigor. And it was the ability to apply rigor at different levels that allowed me to do that. We talked about phases. I'm not going to drill in on it too much. Just remember, it's one of those things. Every time you hear phase, you know it's a logical point to kill the project. I've used the IKEA image there, without permission from IKEA.com, of course. Because these guys are notorious for just constantly shipping, right? So let's drill in on this whole concept of how do you apply rigor to different places. Now, you're not going to be able to see everything that I have written here, but I hope you can see the middle, the pencil in the middle, and the fact that it has 6 stages. This was my ideation sandbox. This is a diagram that is licensed to UBS Financial Services. I'm using it with their permission. We have decided that in the ideation process, we had to define problems, borrow solutions, blah, blah, blah. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, I'll tell you about it. This is lifted from a book called Borrowing Brilliance that was written by a guy named David Cortmore. And the initial gut reaction was, all right, once we got these good ideas, let's go take it to the operating committee and get funding for it. And that simply did not work. This was low rigor. We created a mild rigor type process that looks almost exactly like that, but it was called championing. And I had things like, and you can't see the whole image, somewhere on this set you have to have an executive sponsor that was a senior vice president or higher. And if you didn't, we couldn't continue on. And you needed to have a mini business case, and we needed prototyping, and you needed at least 15 customers if you wanted $100,000. If you wanted 250, you needed 25 customers who would have seen it and said, yes, you want to buy it. In this very mild rigor environment. So when we get to the high rigor environment of project execution, I'm not coming in with an idea. I'm coming in with almost like a startup pitch of how this would go about it. And that's how I was able to get around the project release and the analyst. Because, of course, you come in with a set of ideas and you're like, well, how does that align to the target state? Right, everybody holds on to the target state. Let's talk a little bit about transformation. I don't know why I'm breaking these things. Most start, how long out, and I'm going to ask you guys to raise your hands, when you put together a target state, how many people work in companies with more than 5,000 employees? Okay, so almost all. How long is the average target state out? 3 years? 2? 1? 5? I only saw some. Sir, how long would you think a target state would be out? 5. Okay. You, sir?
You don't even go that far out, we're in transformation right now. It's 6 months to a year.
That's good. That's good. You, sir, with the 5-year out, you're in trouble. Right? Do you know how your kids are going to behave 5 years from now?
Yes.
And you interact with them 24/7 almost. How the hell are we going to predict how an organization of 60,000 people are going to behave 5 years in the future? It's just not going to happen. The target state is good. It's a good bogey out there. But the problem with the target state is that when you come in with something that has changed in the marketplace, someone tells you it doesn't align to the target state. And so now what you're doing is you're growing to a state that you understand today that is guaranteed to be outdated 5 years in the future. No knock on the Frost and Sullivan guys for being analysts, but if you think the analysts have it 5 years out, then you got it all wrong. If they did, they'd be building companies, not writing research reports. Don't worry, I'll plug Frost and Sullivan later and make it up to you guys. The whole idea of building a standalone product, and maybe this will, and Michelle, maybe this will help you, and we'll share this a little bit later. The whole idea of building a product, everybody wants to build a hero product, right? So my product's going to do this, it's going to take over that. Ecosystems is really what you want to start thinking about. The platform is dead. Ecosystems is how you want to design. You want to design a product and think about what are the other products in the industry that you're going to work with that are being designed? What are the other things that are coming to market that you can work with? How many people saw that movie? I forgot the name of it, where it's like The Futures in Plastics. What's the name of the movie?
The Graduate.
The Graduate. Futures in Plastics. The future, my friends, is in ecosystems. We have to go away from thinking about building stocks of information to capturing value from flows of information. Building a platform that does something for someone is just a way to say, I want to stand alone and be the target of attack. Building an ecosystem is a completely different design. You think about things like Instagram, which I'm not a fan of any of the social networks, but Instagram is brilliant because they are capturing value as information flows, not as information stops on time. And you gotta think through a business model to really understand where the value of Instagram is, or you gotta talk to your kids, or use Instagram. The next thing in transformation is this whole idea of waiting. So, where is it on the Gartner hype chart? You've ever heard that one? Right, so the next flux capacitor is coming out. Everybody knows what a flux capacitor is, right? If you don't know what a flux capacitor is, raise your hand. Really? Back to the Future? Doc, 88 gigawatts? That's it. From now on, I'm using an image of like Back to the Future in that one. So we wait for things to be on the hype chart. Let's drill in on this a little bit. Why we should not wait. We spend money on people in IT organizations in what I categorize along 3 categories. People can debate this. You have people that design the platforms for you. These are the people that figure out what versions of Windows works with what versions of the service pack, and what versions of XYZ needs to be connected together. And we have human beings testing permutations of this. Do you guys know these people in your organizations? Right? And this is what they do. These software developers, essentially, that went to college with bright futures of writing amazing code, are actually just sitting down testing packages of versions of service pack, all this kind of sad, actually. Right? Should actually fire those people and just let them go write code for heaven's sake. Okay? That's one way that we spend. The other way that we spend is in replatforming. So, one large organization that I worked in, to go to Windows 7, $150 million, 18 months to go to Windows 7. You know why? Because we had to take 1,600 applications, build a center of excellence of about 200 people around it, and remediate one application at a time. You had to deconstruct it and construct it one at a time. Here's the kicker. None of the people that were doing the remediation actually wrote the code. So you have an absence of expertise going on. The other place that we spend is how we build and how we write. Here's some high-level numbers. In most organizations, over about a 2 to 5 year period, your builders test about 100,000 permutations of different things. They're testing what works and what doesn't work.